All new developments tonight in the targeting of Catholics by the Ortega regime in Nicaragua. After closing down a Jesuit-run university earlier this month, the government has given the school a new name. The school is now called the Casimir Sotelo Montenegro National University after an assassinated Sandinista student leader. The move follows the expulsion earlier this week of a group of Jesuits from their house near the school. The government says the Catholic university was housing terrorists, a claim the school strongly denies. This comes as Bishop Rolando Alvarez remains in prison on charges of treason. We go now to Jason Poblete, president of the Global Liberty Alliance and an expert on Central and South America. Jason, great to be with you tonight. First off, let's talk about what's happening in Nicaragua. Last week, the government took control of a Jesuit-run university and expelled the priests from their private residence in Managua, as we mentioned. This after a string of other anti-religious, anti-Catholic actions. What exactly is happening there? And what do you think is the end game for the Ortega regime?
Well, thanks for having us. And in your lead-in piece, you were talking about India. It reminds me of the Missionaries of Charity and the Ortega Murillo regime threw out the Missionaries of Charity. So I should tell you something about the tone of what's happening in Nicaragua. And it's not new. This is a systematic attack, I believe, on the Catholic Church in a country that's majority Catholic. They want to wipe out Catholicism eventually from the public square. That's their goal. It's going to take them a long time. The Nicaraguan people are devout people. They're deeply religious. And they do not like it when the Catholic Church is attacked. But as you've seen, especially the past few years, the Ortega Murillo regime has been cracking down overtly on the Catholic Church, shutting down institutions, persecuting religious groups, not just Catholic, even other Christian groups. So it's a long-term game plan. I believe the Catholic Church is the biggest challenge for the Nicaragua regime of Ortega Murillo, but they're not going to stop. And they need the U.S. the Catholics in Nicaragua need the U.S. to come to their aid, and they have been doing that.
Yeah, and as you know, this week the State Department put visa restrictions on 100 top Nicaraguan officials. Jason, I want to get your thoughts on that. And what else would you like to see the U.S. and its allies do here in this situation?
Well, sanctions are just part of the policy. I think sanctions are something that we're using, maybe not as effectively as we should. We should be sitting down and coming up with a policy that will long-term advance the U.S. national interest, defend religious freedom, which is part of our core national value, which we're not doing as good as we should, and stop dawdling with the dictator. That's the bottom line. We've been too easy on him and the people around him, and it's not going to be the Catholic Church that can push him out or create that space that we need in Nicaragua. It's going to be U.S. and other countries engaged and being a little more focused, not just with sanctions, but with other policies. So we're doing a good job, but we could be doing a much better job. The U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has been publishing a lot of good material on this, and I urge folks to read it. And there's a lot of good recommendations there that should be adopted by the Biden administration, which have not been.
Jason, I want to talk about Ecuador now. That country is in the midst of some of the worst violence and crime it's had in years, but that's going to have to wait. The country is for a new leader. This after Sunday's election led to a runoff. Talk to us about the candidates that are facing off now and just how pivotal this election is, not just for the region, but also for the U.S.
You know, Ecuador is an interesting place. I believe Ecuador is close to or just about a failed state. It is a narco state. They are kind of caught in between two drug-producing states, and they vie, the drug cartels, including the Mexican drug cartels, vie for that area so they can use it as a transshipment point. The elections are not surprising. I mean, it broke down in the way I expected them to break down. You had on the right a fellow, Balase Noboa, from a very wealthy family, more conservative. On the left, you had Gonzalez, who tends to be from the hard left. So we're going to see how that pans out. But ultimately, we're beyond, I think. We're in a very difficult place. I mean, you're talking about a country where the prisons are overcrowded. They're being run by the cartels, I mean, drug gangs. There are Americans. Well, we represent, help and advise two American brothers down there, the Stevenson brothers from the Washington, D.C. area, who've been unjustly imprisoned there. And they've been subjected to some horrible crimes in their legal system. Nobody seems to focus on it, not even the U.S. government. So we have a lot of challenges there. We have to start focusing a little more, frankly, because we have China meddling in that part of the world. And it is a transshipment point. It has classically been a drug transshipment point. And there are a lot of U.S. national interests down there. These elections are going to be very important. I'm very concerned who's going to win them. But even if the side that I want to win wins, it's going to be a long, drawn-out process because, again, the country is a narco state, and I believe it's getting close to becoming a failed state. And we're going to have to be a little more proactive than we have been in the hemisphere, including beyond Ecuador, by the way. We have other countries that we got to start focusing on also.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much more we can talk about. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Jason, great to be with you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.